Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth. I'm your host, the Game Master, and today we're going to be talking about No Man's Land, which was a big DC event from 1999. We're going to be talking a little bit about Helena Wayne, aka the Huntress, who in our game world, we borrowed a page from Pre Crisis Earth 2 where she was the daughter of the Golden Age Batman and the Golden Age Catwoman. We're also going to be talking about Terry McGinnis from Batman Beyond, who in our game world would be the half brother of Helena Wayne. We're also going to briefly mention Brainiac 13, Raven, the Spectre, and just all sorts of stuff. But before we get into it, smash that like button, make sure you're subscribed, and leave us a comment. We've got an awesome community here, and it's all thanks to you guys. So thank you so much for being here. And I also wanted to say thank you for everybody who reached out to me. I mentioned that I had gotten sick recently, and it was nothing. It was just a cold, but I couldn't record because I lost my voice. So a lot of you had nice things to say while I was kind of under the weather, and I wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you so much. You guys really are awesome. So, all of that said, let's get into it today. So, the prologue to this game takes place in Hell in the year 1999, where the demon known as Etrigan approaches a demon named Asmodel. Etrigan tells Asmodel that the soul of Jim Corrigan, who was the Golden Age Spectre, has finally found peace and has moved on, which means that the cosmic entity known as the Spectre has no soul to guide it now. So Etrigan takes a feather from the wing of Asmodel and he summons the Spectre and then casts a spell that Merlin taught him, which binds the soul of Asmodel to the Spectre entity, right? So, one of the most powerful DC heroes ever is now a force for evil, and the very pillars of heaven and earth shake. Which brings us to the main plot of today's game, which takes place in 1999 when Gotham City suffers the results of a magnitude 7.6 earthquake. In response, the United States government evacuates most of the civilian population, then declares Gotham to be a quote unquote no man's land. They destroy all the bridges leading to the island, and they set up a military blockade to prevent people from entering or exiting. Gangs and various supervillains that Batman had battled over the years swiftly carve up the city. The city's police commissioner, Barbara Gordon, and several members of her department, who dub their gang the Blue Boys, stay behind to protect civilians. Also on the inside is Huntress, aka Helena Wayne, the daughter of Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle. Jean-Paul Vallée, who has been our 90s Batman, leaves the city to lobby the government to continue aid to Gotham, but he fails. Barbara Gordon and her men wait for Batman's return, but he disappears for months, leading the police to believe that he's abandoned Gotham. Huntress attempts to keep order, fashioning a Batwoman costume. She soon discovers that criminals fear her more as Batwoman than they ever did as Huntress. and she succeeds in holding territory of her own. The Penguin has a trading operation, and the new Joker, who in our world is Tim Drake, takes control of an area of Gotham City and dubs it Jokerville. Gang members known simply as the Jokers then kill a man named Warren McGinnis. His wife Mary and her son Terry look on in horror. And of course, now Terry McGinnis wants revenge. Months pass, and Jean Paul Vallée leaves Washington, D.C. He was last seen entering Gotham City, but then he just seems to vanish without a trace and is never seen again. Poison Ivy is in a park where she's using her powers to feed the masses with fruits and vegetables. Batwoman shows up and sees Ivy seems to have turned over a new leaf, so she doesn't interfere with her operation. Speaking of food, Terry McGinnis is looking for food to feed his mother and younger brother when he encounters the Jokers. Outnumbered and outgunned, Terry finds himself on the run from them. Terry flees onto the grounds of Wayne Manor, where the security system detects him and opens the front gate for him. Once Terry is inside, the gate closes. Terry takes a look around inside of stately Wayne Manor and notices a bat stuck inside of a grandfather clock. As he tries to free it, he stumbles upon the secret entrance to the Batcave. As Terry enters, he comes face to face in the dark with a Tyrannosaurus Rex, which scares the crap out of him. But then the lights slowly begin to flicker on, and he sees that it's not a living robot. It was an animatronic trophy from a bygone era. Terry also sees the giant coin has been knocked over on its side by the earthquake. And there's also in here tons of other things that the various Batmen held on to from their many, many adventures, including some Kryptonian memory crystals, just like the ones that we've seen in the Fortress of Solitude in 1978's Superman the movie. And just as those crystals contained a recording of the mind of Jor-El, who could then give advice and answer questions to Kal-El, the crystals here contain a recording of the mind of Bruce Wayne so that he can give advice to and answer questions from Terry McGinnis. And as such, Bruce and Terry begin to talk. Meanwhile, the Justice League can't help the situation in Gotham City because they are dealing with the Spectre, who is currently possessed by the demon known as Asmodel. Meanwhile, an elderly Two-Face hires a man named David Kane to kill Barbara Gordon. But Kane's mute daughter, Cassandra, thwarts Kane. Cassandra then becomes the new Batgirl to help clean up No Man's Land. Later, Two-Face kidnaps Barbara and puts her on trial. Police officer Renee Montoya reaches out to Two-Face's Harvey Dent persona, whose defense leads to Gordon's acquittal. While cross-examining himself, Dent concludes that Two-Face had essentially blackmailed Barbara Gordon into their previous alliance. Hence, any agreement between them is null and void. Lex Luthor arrives in Gotham with plans to completely rebuild the city. Attempts by the Joker to disrupt construction are thwarted by Bane, who has been hired by Luthor in exchange for his own private country. Luthor also wants to buy Wayne Enterprises now that Jean-Paul Vallée went missing, which, by the way, leads some to assume that Luthor was the reason for his disappearance. But Lex Luthor runs into competition from Derek Powers, who is another corrupt businessman and the founder and owner of Powers Technologies. Powers has developed a lethal mutagenic nerve gas and intends to sell it as a weapon. Luthor tries to kill Powers to eliminate the competition, and during their battle, Powers is exposed to the gas and subjects himself to extreme levels of radiation to save his life, which interacts with the gas and causes his body to become radioactive and translucent. However, he hides this and contains his radiation with artificial skins that disintegrate over time. Meanwhile, the President of the United States bows to intense pressure from the people and the media. So the government reverses the no man's land order and allows Gotham to rejoin the United States. Barbara Gordon and her surviving officers are promoted. On Christmas Day, the Tim Drake Joker attacks SWAT Lieutenant William Billy Pettit, killing him. And the new Batwoman barely survives the battle with the Joker's men. So her sidekick, the mute Cassandra Cain Batgirl, takes over. And for the first time, she encounters Terry McGinnis, and the early seeds of romance are planted. Which brings us to our epilogue. After an extremely long quest that literally took the Justice League through heaven and hell, they finally find a soul to bond to the Spectre entity, and it's Raven from Teen Titans. Raven pretty much looks like she always did, but now her hooded cloak is green. The entity known as the Spectre can burn impurities out of a soul, and that is exactly what it does for Raven, who had always hated the traits that she inherited from her father, Trigon. This new female Spectre soon encounters her father, and the two of them do battle. But that's a story for another day. We ran all of these adventures in the early 2000s, and we set them in 1999. One reason we made sure to have the No Man's Land event and the Day of Judgment event take place at the same time was to explain where the Justice League was all this while. All of our players unanimously agreed that the JLA could have fixed No Man's Land in about 5 minutes. And about 3/4 of us thought that No Man's Land was a so-so idea that was really poorly executed. To each his own, obviously, but in my humble opinion, a lot of the stupidity DC Comics became known for in the 2000s was rearing its ugly head in the 90s. And No Man's Land kind of highlights that fact. Also, the way they undid it all practically overnight bothered me. So we at least tie that in with the Brainiac 13 storyline from Y2K, especially since Lex Luthor controlled the B-13 tech, and in No Man's Land, it was Luthor and LexCorp who rebuilt the city. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll cover Brainiac 13 and all of that in our upcoming Y2K video. But for now, that's all I've got today. As always, thank you for listening. If you'd like to support the channel, smash like, make sure you're subscribed, and be sure to leave us a comment. And from all of us to all of you, happy holidays, and we'll see you in the next adventure. Bye.